Um, 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. Today is Tuesday, January 14th. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item on the agenda, or third item actually, is changes to the agenda. Any changes, Dr. Finch?
No changes?
Okay, then we'll go ahead and move on to communications. Any communications?
For the study session, no communications?
Okay. We will break out into,
There we go.
we'll break out into executive session for, let's just say 20 minutes to start, and we'll come back if we need to extend it anymore. We'll just talk first as a group.
Sure.
No action will be taken. So.
Very good.
Where are we going?
There's a room here.
Okay, we are back from the study session. No action was taken. We do need to excuse two board members, so I guess we can do that here. So I'd like to, I think we need a motion for that, right? So I'll
Correct.
make a motion to excuse both Mr. Storner and Mr. Heed from today's meeting. So we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Um, Those opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries 3-0. And just as a side note, just officially to say, we do have a quorum present. So even though there's just three of us, we do have the authority to act if necessary. Okay, we're done with the study session. We'll reconvene here at 7 o'clock and conduct a regular board meeting. Thank you.
Time to kill.
All right.
Coming pretty fast.
It did. It didn't take that long. You're right.
This is like the longest minute. There we go.
There we go. All right. Welcome, everyone. Today is Tuesday, January 14th, 2025, 7 p.m. We'll go ahead and get the West Valley School District Board meeting started. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we go any further on the agenda, we have two board members that are not here today. I would like to officially excuse them, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to excuse Mr. Thorner and Mr. Heed from today's meeting. I'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 3-0. Next, Dr. Finch, any changes to the agenda?
No changes?
All right. And communications there, response to public comments, that's a placeholder.
That's
Were there
correct.
any public comments that needed response?
No, there were not. That's a placeholder.
All right. Next, item 6 on the agenda, school board presentation, Mountain View Elementary.
Well, we're here at Mountain View Elementary this evening, and we have Principal Clayton Wyckoff is going to lead the presentation. We have some staff members here as well. I got a peek at the presentation, some wonderful photos from outdoor school, and then also Clayton's going to share some of the recent results we had from our student survey, where we do an annual survey to get perceptions of students on our climate and culture, and looking forward to this presentation about Mountain View Elementary. So we'll ask the board at this time to join the public so we can see the PowerPoint.
Well, welcome and thank you for joining us here at Mountain View Elementary to our little wonderful gym in the country. For those of you who have been here, you know what a wonderful place it is. As I was going through this, first of all, I was just going to have Mary talk about, actually, Mary wanted to talk about outdoor school. Last year when they returned, she came to me right away with this whole presentation of all the standards, not just outdoor school, it's not just fun and games, but all the standards that are hit in the meantime while they're doing that. So when we got assigned January this year, which was different than last year, I said, let's do it. Last Wednesday, we got the survey results data back, and I looked at it, and I have to share. There's some things on here that I'm super proud about what's going on out here, and the statistics going to show. Before I do that, I was sitting there thinking, it's been a little over a year since you guys were out here, and I was presenting at my first school board meeting. But in that little over a year, we have done numerous things. This is not part of the presentation. Since you're here, I'm going to tell you about them. We finished a new portable. We updated 8 classrooms with new furniture and supplies, thanks to the Save the Children grant. We have a new roof, a new reader board sign in the parking lot, thanks to Mike Trammell at Pepsi. We have new lighting for the parking lot and the back of the building, thanks to Jeremy, our electrician, and under Jack's leadership at facilities. We have new speakers outside to allow the PA broadcast if there's an emergency information, an emergency announcement. Now it's heard all over the campus, not just in the hallways. We have a new parking lot for staff. Come on out one of these nights that we have an evening performance, and we're not parking on the road anymore. So that has been awesome. We have a new well. Has had some problems, but we have a new well. It's drinkable. It's passed its inspection. It's not leaking anymore. It's awesome. And I recently worked with the county to get a shoulder line painted on Stone Road, which is going to help with our traffic flow moving forward. I have a plan for that. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and say thank you to the board, to Joe Connolly, especially to Jack McCaskill and facilities. These guys have a let's get it done attitude instead of no. It's always we'll find a way. And I really, really appreciate working for a district that has that attitude. So with that said, I'm going to get right into the survey data. So our school improvement plan for all elementaries is a culture of safety and belonging. And the two specific areas are I feel safe at this school and most students are respectful of others at this school. You can see the longitudinal numbers that from 23 to 2024, we took a dip last year, probably because I was brand new. I don't know. They didn't like me. But this year we're up in the 80s. I want that to be 100%. Everybody says you can't get them all, but I think that's one I can get them all. Most students are respectful of others at this school. 30% jump from last year. That's amazing. But I look at that, we still have work to do because that means 4 out of 10 kids still don't feel like others are being respectful at school. So the next 7, these are the summative scores in these areas. Each of these, for example, future orientation has like 5 specific questions under it. So I've just taken the summative score to show it to you. Otherwise, you'd be really bored. So again, you can see last year 69 to this year 89. Future orientation just means what's my future look like? I know I'm going to graduate from high school. I have plans. My teacher's preparing me, things like that. These are the next items: belonging and identity, self-management, perseverance and stamina, self-efficacy and mindset, critical thinking, and collaboration and interpersonal skills. And I just want to show you the trends. There's not a single area in all of those that have gone down. I actually this afternoon went through question by question throughout the entire student survey. And with the exception of one question, everything went up. One question remained the same. It was 91% positive, but every other item on the whole thing, and there's probably, 80 or 90 questions. I'm not even sure, but every one increased. And that is something to celebrate. I haven't even talked to my staff about this yet. They're going to get it tomorrow morning in a late start. We're going to celebrate this kind of stuff because this isn't anything that Mrs. Lewis or Mrs. Stuke or Mr. Wyckoff or whatever. This is a culture. Mountain View Elementary is really, really a special place. You walk through the doors at any given time in the morning. There's 4 or 5 adults. I now found myself, standing with my back has always been hard. I pull up a chair. Every kid that walks through the hall, every student that comes through, I get high fives, I get hugs. Mrs. DeVette standing there, Mrs. Register. There's 4 or 5 of us greeting every kid coming in the morning, and it's obviously paying dividends. So that is my part. Now I'm going to turn it over to Mary. Before I turn it over to Mary, I wanted to put this up there because I talked to Mary the other day, and I see, when I looked at all the standards on her presentation, there's a lot of science standards that have been met through the outdoor school. And I said to her, and this is Mary, will this be our 4th year this year? We've done 3, or this will be our 3rd?
This will be 4.
This will be 4. So we've done this. This will be our 4th year of going to Camp Dudley for outdoor school. And she said it's ironic that they went to Camp Dudley and they returned, and within a couple days they took the science assessment. So you see the state level proficiency at 5th grade is 50%. The district is 66%. And our tiny little school out here in Mountain View, we're at 80%. And that's not just because I want to shout out Mary and Nikki at 5th grade for what they do, but that's also a shout out to K 1, 2, 3, and 4 that prioritize and make time for science. So this is really a school-wide achievement, even though Mary's a 5th grade teacher and she's going to talk about it. So without further ado, I want to introduce and turn it over to Mary, who's going to talk about Camp Dudley.
Thank you. All right. So Clayton was right. When we got back from Camp Dudley last year, I was really excited and exhausted, but excited. And I said, the next time our school has to present to the school board, I want to talk about Camp Dudley. And one, I want to just brag and share about this fabulous experience that we're able to have. But I also want you to be aware of the benefits that we get from going to Camp Dudley each year, and hopefully inspire other elementary schools to do this as a 5th grade overnight trip. The camp is set up. Let's see. So we do this at the end of the year. Great way to celebrate, capstone occasion. But that's not why we do it. It's part of it. It's part of the culture building and the ending our great experience here at Mountain View. But it's really a lot more than that. We've been going, this is our 4th year of going as 5th grade to camp. It's our 3rd year of doing it overnight. The first year I went was just a day camp. Then I said, let's take it up a notch. Let's stay overnight. And so during those 2 days that we're there, we participate in 8 different activity sessions. We sit down to family style meals, and all of the students are grouped. There are 4 girls' cabins and 4 boys' cabins that have students and adult chaperones in them. We usually put the boys up the hill, and the girls get to stay in the main area. Of the 8 activities, I want to share some of the things that we did with you. This was one, Watershed Wild. The students got to participate in this simulation of a watershed and to actually see how erosion occurs and pollution. And they started with clear water, and then she added dye in certain areas, and then it rained, and we could see how that polluted water then got to other areas. We sat down and listened to the legend of the lost salmon from the Yakama tribe. And at the bottom there, if you really want to geek out over all those different standards, it hits those 3 science standards and 4 different social studies standards, all within this hour-long activity. And we did intentionally plan this to do the science state test after camp, because they get a lot here. And that test it tests everything from K through 5. This one, Home Sweet Habitat, they played a game where they learned about the essentials of habitat, food, water, shelter, and space, and then how human impact affects that habitat, what changes occur within different groups within that habitat, and how one thing affects another, which in turn affects another. Then they got those little PVC pipe squares and did some quadrant mapping. They took their grid, their square, and got to choose where they set it down on the ground. And then they had to quadrant map everything that they saw within there, every living and non-living thing, which was fun watching them chase around the ants and redraw them, and because they kept moving. All about trees. They were tree detectives and talked about the interconnectedness of trees, the lifespan. They each got a cookie cutout of a tree and got to count the rings to see how long it had lived, and talk about the distance between those rings and what that means. And then at the end, they each had a part to play in a skit about photosynthesis. So each student was a particular part of the plant and had a different enactment. So they had the physical motions going along with learning what each part does during the stages of photosynthesis. Cultural awareness. This one was really interesting, the alpha beta game. We had the alpha group and the beta, alpha society and beta society. And this is the alpha group here. Betas were around the corner. They learned the certain rules of their society. So they learned this made up group's communication, how they communicated with each other, what their monetary system was, different games that they liked to play. And their personal space requirements, which were very different. One group, whenever they talked, they'd put their hand. When they talked to them, you couldn't talk to them without putting the hand. And the other group, if you got within 5 feet, they'd have to start backing up. So they learned the norms of their social group. Then we rang a bell, and each group sent 2 scouts to the other social group, and they had to try to figure out what was going on in this group, who are these people, and their norms were totally different. So they got to understand that it's not that theirs is normal, it's just what they're used to, and it's different from other groups' social norms. And they were able to work with people and see that it's okay to see things, that we see things differently. Then they extended that to their own life. So we have all of these different social studies, science, and even math standards that were covered. In addition to those, we have all of these different things: the environmental and sustainability standards, social emotional learning standards, since time immemorial tribal connections, and environmental stewardship. All of these things are occurring throughout our trip there. But it's not just oops, I went one too many. It's not just the standards and all of those other things that I just showed you. It's also life skills. Power of observation. This is something that is very missed in today's society. Taking time to notice things, where you can really pay close attention to things and identify patterns, and taking time to reflect, gaining deeper insights and awareness of your environment. And there's no technology distractions. There's Camp Dudley rule, no cell phones. So, and even if they had them, there's no service. So they're able to take the time without, the only distractions are the noises that they hear and the things that they see around them. They can really take time to observe and write in journals. And it was just a very unique experience that a lot of these children haven't had. So the morning that we went to camp, I was checking my phone to check the weather, because when we went the prior year, it was really warm. I got to wear even shorts one of the days. The morning we left, it was snowing at Camp Dudley. And when we got there, it had stopped snowing, but it was still cold and very windy. Kayaking, canoeing is one of the other activities that we do. And the students get in the boats, and they're told, stay over on this side of Clear Lake. Well, the wind immediately, as you can see in the bottom picture, whipped them way over to the other end. And so much so that they had to, in the top right picture, be towed back by groups of adults. And even the adults who were out there said it was really hard. In this picture, you can kind of see what it was like for the children in the canoes and kayaks. So this gave them the opportunity to learn the value of challenge, being able to overcome a fear. They had to work together in a canoe. Nobody was out there by themselves. They were in groups of 2 or 3. And every one of them made it through it and came back. They know that they can do hard things, and they built their perseverance. And seeing this challenge that they got through really boosted confidence for a lot of the children. They also got to participate in archery, and it was really cool for some students who maybe don't do the best on academic skills and tests, but they can get a bullseye. And just to have that, as my peers get to see me do well in something, finally, and the smiles that came from that was just priceless. Rock climbing was another one that we did, and it was very neat to hear them cheering each other on, encouraging each other when they made it. And when they didn't make it all the way to the top, they could empathize with each other, be understanding, and congratulate them on how far they did get. And a lot of them went back and tried again and got a little farther and a little farther. It also gave the students a chance to see me on the right picture there overcome a challenge. So they get to see adults and that they look up to facing challenges too. I got stuck. And when they started cheering me on, that spurred me to be able to continue up. But it was just cool for them to be able to have that experience of seeing that. The zip line. This was probably the biggest challenge of camp. And it's very much a mind game, overcoming that fear of doing this. The biggest challenge, but it also had the biggest payoff. In this series of pictures, on the left side, they have to climb up this ladder. And I don't know if you can see very clearly the handholds. They're like big rebar type staples that they have to hold on to. That's their handholds and footholds. And they are harnessed in and very safe the entire time. But the middle picture, you can see perspective of once they got to the top of the ladder, how far they had to go with those metal handholds and footholds. And then they get to the top and they have to convince themselves to sit on the edge and then push themselves off and go. So it was just fantastic seeing them overcome that fear. Friendships are built during this time at Camp Dudley. Even though we're a small school, these kids have been together for a while. It really helped them bond and have a sense of belonging and connection. They felt a sense of purpose, happiness, acceptance. And all of these things are so important as they finish school here at our wonderful small Mountain View and head off to middle school. This entire camp was fully funded from a grant from Outdoor Schools Washington. It paid for everything, all the activities and food at Camp Dudley, the transportation, substitutes. Nope. I'll get to that. I have somebody else to thank for that one. But we had more money than we needed to just pay for Dudley. So I was able to use the money. And for each student, we bought a backpack. Of course, we color coordinate it by group. So the blue group had a blue backpack, blue flashlight, blue battery, or not blue batteries, blue clipboard, blue rain poncho, because we're teachers. That's what we do, we color coordinate. And all of those things we collect back, and now we have those to use for all the other years that we go. We were also able to purchase a couple pairs of binoculars for each cabin and some knot tying kits so they could practice tying different knots, and some first aid fanny packs for the adults. The t-shirts is one thing that's specifically excluded from the grant. It cannot be anything that's used as a souvenir for students, which is why we had to collect those materials back as well. But since PTA sets aside money for field trips, and since we didn't use money for field trips because of the grant, we used that money to buy the t-shirts for each student, which is a nice little keepsake and memory for them. So these students here are the group of kids that went last year with us. And I want to read some quotes that these children said from when they returned from camp. It was such an amazing experience, and some of the activities you could only do once in a lifetime. And all the workers were super nice and encouraged me to do things I would normally be scared to do. Also, I normally can't sleep away from home without my mom, but at Camp Dudley, I wasn't afraid because I just had so much fun. Another student said, it was super fun and it helped challenge me beyond what I like to do. It seemed like you were having fun, but you were learning as well. I loved how there were so many things that were challenging. Isn't that interesting that we think of challenge as something that's not necessarily good? And here the students are knowing that it's good and appreciating it. I love that. The workers helped me out of my comfort zone, and I appreciated that. And finally, Camp Dudley is a perfect place to learn, have fun, and grow in friend relationships. Thank you so, so much. So in closing, we hit all these standards that I told you about, but it's also so much fun. So, and if you have, thank you. If you have questions about the grant money or funding or anything about camp, I'm happy to answer it.
I'm going to have the board, we'll go back so the microphones can pick up your questions and comments here.
I have to add something. When I introduced Mary, and I'm gonna read my introduction because I skipped over it. because it's in here. She is the planner, the organizer, and most importantly, the money finder for all things Camp Dudley. And then it was supposed to be Mary.
There we go. Good job, Mary.
A little bit late, but I had to say it.
All right, well, questions and comments from the board?
I'll start out. First of all, what a wonderful experience for these kids. Just being out in the environment, learning about it, and on top of that, getting it to facilitate their education in a more constructive way and just being outdoors. So I really like that. My real question is about the enthusiasm to keep going. You know, this would be a great experience. I can only imagine the kids coming back and say, you've got to do this next year. Does that really happen? I mean, is there a lot of excitement for the next group to go next year?
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the first things that they ask on day one. Are we going to Camp Dudley? Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and are they allowed to go more than once, like in successive years, or just they get one turn apiece? I imagine the space is kind of limited, or how much you can actually do, or is that not true?
I mean, here at this school, we just do it as a fifth grade,
Okay,
at a fifth grade thing.
Level.
But I know that some of the mid-level campus, some of the sixth graders went this year. So there were actually students who went last year that went again this year as sixth graders.
okay.
I know I've had 3 of my daughters go through Mountain View, so we love Mountain View. And my oldest was too old to go to Camp Dudley. And so she heard from my middle child about Camp Dudley, and she was pretty upset that she didn't get to have that experience. And I know Macy, our youngest, is getting ready to go. And I will say she loves you, Mrs. Lewis. And so I think for my middle child, I know her experience was that it was just a great capstone on her elementary years. And so I got to go and volunteer for part of it, and just really enjoyed it as well. And I know the kids do too. And I did have a question for you, Clayton, and I appreciate what you shared. Those are pretty big and significant jumps to see that with the students. What would you say are the kind of the key factors in maybe changes that have taken place that contribute to that?
That's a tough question, because I don't think that we've done any one magical thing. I think it's a staff that buys in when we present something and we say, this is our strategic goal plan. Number 1 is a sense of culture and belonging, and greet kids at the doors and meet them where they're at, all those kind of things. It's nothing that we come together and we say, okay, how are we doing and what are we doing? It's just the way Mountain View is. You throw it at them, they do it. The kids respond. I mean, we've had issues, we go back to the respect thing. A lot of the respect stuff happens on the playground. So when there's issues on the playground, I will pull the affected groups together. In fact, I had 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade kids that play football every day. I pulled them all together. They got the me, them talk. And I said, no more pushing, shoving, body contact. We're out here to respect. If somebody scores a touchdown, you congratulate them if they're on your team or not. So just trying to teach that in the moment type of things. But that's a good question. I don't know. There's not a good answer. I mean, our counselor does a phenomenal job of teaching all of these kind of skills training. Right now, they're in a bullying. bullying awareness. So of course, I get 20 a day that kids are getting bullied, which is a good thing. If you think you're being bullied, come and talk about it. But I think it's just kind of a systemic thing. I really do.
Mhm. Well, I know you got, maybe I'm biased, but I think you have the best teachers here. So compared to the other schools, but we have great teachers at all the schools too. So
I have told everybody that will listen, I now have 4 grandkids and I have 3 kids of my own. There's not a single teacher in this building that I would not unequivocally put my kids or grandkids in their classroom.
Yeah.
And that is very high praise.
Yeah. Good.
And I mean it.
Thank you for the presentation. I think what was awesome, not just all the fun and learning they had, but seeing how many standards it helped meet, and then brilliant doing the test afterwards, because it shows what they learned. I mean, that's just awesome. Thank you.
Well, Clayton, I appreciate you saying that the staff has really embraced our strategic plan and that goal 1 of a culture of safety and belonging for every room. And maybe I'd just like to share again that, I shared this quote with all the staff when we started the school year. It's research from Stanford. Researcher is Cohen, and he says that students who report a strong sense of belonging tend to be more motivated to learn, perform better academically, have better rates of attendance, engage in less misconduct and fewer health-threatening behaviors, and have higher self-esteem and better mental health. So this focus across the whole district. We've had presentations at other schools, and it's been really encouraging for me to hear how the leadership of the school and then the staff are really working together to make this happen for our kids. And then it's really great to see that you shared the data that we are making a difference on those measurements. So thank
Every
you.
2 months, we do a quick formative assessment with the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students. Ask them 3 questions. Do you feel safe? Do you feel respected? Or are other kids respected? But I also ask them, do you feel welcomed at this school? That's not in any of the CE stuff.
Mhm.
I want to know. That day, the 109 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders took it. 100 of them said, yes, I feel welcomed at this school. So that's what it's all about. We're here for the kids. Not here for the vacations and all the things. I'm here for the kids. Data like that, it's like, okay, makes me happy.
Yeah, well, very good. Well, thank you so much, Clayton. Thank you, Mary. And thanks for our other staff members that are here supporting the presentation.
And I have one last comment. Clayton, I would be remiss if I didn't say those were fantastic results in looking at that. Just the gap between one year to the next, just constant improvement. That's very significant in my opinion. So just keep up the great work. So
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
That's what I told you. We're going to celebrate it tomorrow morning with the staff. They don't know about this unless they're all at home tuned in with a cup of coffee. But it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Mr. Strong.
And thank you. All right. Any more comments from the other board members or Peter?
Nope.
All right. Thank you. Very nice presentation. Moving on, we go to public comment of non-discussion agenda items. So again, this is open to the public. If you have comments on non-discussion agenda items, again, just a gentle reminder that we will not comment on those things. We will just open it up. We're here to listen primarily at this point and to hear your input if you would like to make any comments. So I don't have a list of anything at this point. No comments? All right. Then one last call in case anyone here in the room would like to make any comments? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to action items. We have a number of items on the agenda here. Approval of minutes. I think we can do these. This is not a consent agenda, so these are just individual items. So there's only a few of them. We can go through them rather quickly individually if
Right.
it serves everyone best. So approval of minutes. So everyone has seen the notes there. There's a copy of the minutes in the package. If anyone would like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the December 19th, 2024 board meeting, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the December 19th meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Wolcott. We'll go ahead and take a vote on that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, approval of travel requests. Just one note, there was a late request added to the agenda for the girls wrestling team to attend a wrestling meet in Eastmont. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yep.
All right. Hopefully everyone got a chance to note that that was there. If so, if there are no questions or comments, we'll
Yeah, just a reminder that board approval is needed for overnight trip with students or out-of-state travel. All 8 of these are overnight with students. There were a couple that are retroactive, and so I do have our athletic director and assistant principal from the high school, Jeff Jameson, is here this evening in case you have any questions regarding that. We do our best to get these to you so they're not retroactive, but occasionally retroactive. But we do want to approval of items 1 through 8 of travel requests.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Caphart. So we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of approval of the travel requests 1 through 8 printed on the agenda, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Message, sorry. 3-0. Item C on the agenda, approval of policy additions, revisions, second reading. We have the 3241 student discipline, 3432 emergencies.
Yeah, and again, these are second reading. First reading, Mr. Thorner had caught a couple typos, so Stephanie, our assistant, has corrected those, and those were from WASDA typos, by the way. Not Stephanie's. and again, just to highlight that, I appreciate Clayton Wyckoff working on the language that we added to the emergencies for Secure and Teach. Clayton is our not only principal for Mountain View, but also our lead person for safety, our school safety, and the work that we do with the regional safety cooperatives. So appreciate Clayton's work on this policy 3432 emergencies. So this is second reading. There's been no changes except for the corrected typos from the first reading that we had.
I'll make a motion to pass 3241 and 3432 policy changes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wolcott. We'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approval of policy addition revision, second reading carries 3-0. Next item, last item, D, approval instructional materials committee members. Again, that list was in our package. It's just at this point a formality.
That's correct. We did, there's a correction we need to make. The school board non-voting member for the instructional materials committee is actually Joel Heed, not Steve Olcott. So we'll make that correction here. And then we do recommend the approval of the instructional materials committee members. And that's and just a note that we have increased the number of committee members so that we can make sure that there is representation when it comes time for the meeting.
All right, would someone care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. So we have a motion. Materials committee members. We'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 3-0. All right, item 9 on the agenda, items arising. Anybody have something that they would like to share? All right, superintendent's report.
Yeah, for the superintendent's report, I had a follow-up on the work that's been done to do a grant proposal, or not necessarily, well, it is the Safe Schools to Safe Routes to School. It is a grant application. The Washington State Department of Transportation takes all the applications. They put together a funding package with a priority recommendation to the state legislature, and they do that for the biennium. So we had participation. It was actually the county and the city working together. We had some of our school board members were helping to give input on this, and we did have an application that was submitted. The city actually submitted it and then had the county as a partnership. This is the project that would extend sidewalks and gutters from the junior high campus on Zier all the way up to the high school campus. The estimated project cost is $1.477 million. The Department of Transportation took all these applications from across the state. There were 108 applications, and they have prioritized those and given a list to the legislature. So the Zier Road project is priority number 85 out of the 108. They anticipate the legislature providing funding for the first 32 projects, which would come in about $54 million. The total requests are $164 million. So just wanted to share with the board that with the priority ranking that was received, we anticipate, unfortunately, that the Zero Road project will not receive funding in the upcoming biennium budget. But I have had some conversations that, it is good that we got the project, scope of the project submitted. And just the way the budgets work, if it's not funded this biennium, but those 32 projects might receive funding, then our project would move up the priority list. So it is good that we did the work that we did. And we can continue to advocate with our local legislators that this is an important project for us. And I do want to point out that we had Representative Corey advocated for the sidewalks on 88th, and that was approved by the last legislative session, and that is scheduled to take place this summer. So there'll be sidewalks for the Apple Valley Elementary on 88th, and we'll continue to advocate for this project on Zero Road.
And just
Question for you on it though. So we were 82 out of 55 that were approved, but do you know that in 2 years when it comes up again, do we move up the list, or is it based on projects submitted and needs? And so there's a chance we could be 82 if we're.
Yeah, each round of funding, they do collect all the applications, and then they do a priority list based. I think a lot of it is based on the safety and how many accidents there have been along this route and such. So, but then there also is, they wanted to make sure that there is geographic representation. So there's quite a lot of considerations they do for the priority list.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right that there will be a new round of applications and a new priority list that will come out for the next biennium.
Okay.
But again, these are recommendations to the legislature, so the legislature can take those recommendations and make adjustments if they want to.
Okay. Do you know if there's other avenues like grants that we could pursue for something like that?
That's a good question for this. The city helped us to lead this, so
If
yeah,
you-
we'll need to look and see if there's other avenues for
Okay.
funding. Good question.
thank you, Mr. Kephart. That was my point I was going to make.
Sorry.
I talked to Representative Corey about this a while ago, and we got him started on trying to push for this, and so he was certainly willing to help out. But I think it was Peter and I at one point went down and met with the city council member or the board or whatever down there that was responsible for trying to do this project. And I was led to believe this was just one avenue that we could pursue at that time, but this is where they felt the strongest chance of getting funds existed for us. But I do want to say that, I think we should just continue the fight or the battle, whatever we want to call it, to try and get a sidewalk up and down Zero Road. I actually would love to see a lot more than that, but if we have to start with getting the sidewalks, anything to improve the safety along that route would be
If we have
great.
more accidents, then maybe they'll approve it.
That's unfortunate, right? Yeah.
That would be the tough way to do it.
Yeah.
That was a joke.
But thanks for the interest in that. I think it's very important, and it's not something that we should give up very lightly. It's an important thing, and safety is all about, the kids. And so that's something that just will stay on our radar scope for a long time. At least for me, it will. All right. That was the superintendent's report?
Yep.
All right. Board reports, board development. I have one item if no one doesn't. I just want to talk about the Long Range Facilities Committee meeting that I attended along with Mr. Hill. A very constructive and very positive meeting. A lot of very constructive stuff went on in that meeting. And I think the bottom line, the outcome was there was focus on three general areas and three of the facilities that we have in our district, the Tanum, this school in Mountain View, and the mid-level campus in general. So those are three areas that will get a lot of focus because there were 4 or 5 breakout groups that we had. Each one of the groups came up with the same 3 facilities that needed attention. So that was nice to see that sort of coalescing around some central issues. And I think most of the community would probably see it that way, but I can't speak for everyone, but it certainly looks that way as a route to go. So I just wanted to bring that up. Very good participation. I think we had most of the committee members there, if not all of them, and everybody contributed in a very constructive way. So it's very, very positive outcome.
Yeah, maybe just to add that it's about 30 people on the committee. We made sure that the large majority are parents and community members. We really want the Long Range Facilities Plan to be a voice of our community and voice of parents. And so we do have staff that are some representation, but the large majority are parents and community.
Thank you for that additional note. Yes. All right. If there are no other comments or anything else, we will adjourn the meeting at 7:44 p.m. Again, January 14th, 2025. Thank all of you for attending tonight and coming out in the cold. Take care.
Thank you.